All right, so for this school year, a big question that a lot of families have is that what are we planning for? What's the learning model? So Seattle Public Schools and Leschi, we are planning for full-time in-person learning for this school year. We really want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students, building off of their strengths, as well as just assessing where our students' skills are at, considering that some students we haven't seen in person for a year and a half, and this is now the third school year that is going to be impacted by the COVID pandemic. Seattle Public Schools is also going to be working closely and has been with King County Public Health and the CDC to determine our health and safety protocols. And then we're going to, of course, make sure that we rely on science, medical professionals and experts, and scientific evidence to determine how to keep our students, our staff, and our families safe during this school year. I know that, as a parent, it's a concern that I have, and at the same time, I remind myself of the evidence that there are schools in the United States that have been open for a few weeks, and when schools have mask requirements, then we are not seeing the same levels of outbreaks or even any outbreaks in those schools, and there are health and safety measures that can be taken to ensure the safety of our students, staff, and families. And please, during this meeting, the chat is open, so if you have any questions, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And then there'll be time at the end of my presentation for any questions that you have, whether it's in the chat or if anyone feels comfortable unmuting and asking a question. There have been a few staffing changes, and the message that I sent out earlier to Leschi families gave some information about those staffing changes. So our administrative team is actually going to be entirely new this school year. So Assistant Principal Barbara Dixon, she has now been hired as principal of Salmon Bay K-8. And I'm very happy that she was hired as a principal. That's something that she's been working towards for a while. And then I'm sad to say that Letta Stewart Mason, our head teacher from last year, will be leaving Leschi, but happy to say that she is going to be working in Seattle Public Schools as a Black Studies curriculum specialist at the central office. And so it is a role that she has been wanting for a while, and that will definitely make sure it uses her knowledge and her expertise. And now we have some new staff that are going to be joining Leschi this year. And so it is my pleasure to introduce Teresa Estrada. Dr. Estrada is going to be Leschi's assistant principal for this school year. And also, I'm introducing Glenna Luton as Leschi's head teacher for this school year. Teresa Estrada, going back to the assistant principal position, she has been working in Seattle Public Schools for a few years at Sacagawea Elementary. She also has school leader experience in New Mexico. And she will be officially starting tomorrow, I believe. So it's pretty close to the school year starting, but I'm very excited to work with Dr. Estrada. Glenna Luton is going to be Leschi's head teacher, and previously, last school year, Glenna was our special education access room teacher, and that means that we currently have an opening for our special education access teacher position that we are going to be hiring for very shortly. And I'll make sure that that's announced to families as soon as we make that hire. And then Nurse Ariana left Leschi last spring, and welcoming Nurse Christina, who has been working in the district for a while. She most recently was the school nurse at Thurgood Marshall Elementary, and she will be at Leschi 3 days a week. And I'll let families know what are the specific days that she'll be here. But yes, welcome to Nurse Christina. Since I'm on this slide, I just want to make sure I answer this question from the chat. So what is the function of the head teacher role? So the head teacher role is here in Seattle Public Schools to support students, families, and staff. So examples of that are responding to students who need support for behavior or other needs, not necessarily just handling discipline, but helping with supervision at lunch and recess, helping out in the classroom. It's also a mentor and coaching role for newer teachers or other teachers who need support in certain areas. It's also important to know that Glenna is completing her principal internship with me serving as her mentor principal for this year. The head teacher also does work to connect with families, and so it's kind of a position that does quite a bit at the school. So students will be seeing a lot of Teacher Glenna around the school this year. So it's just some preliminary basic information. September 1st is the first day of school for 1st through 12th grade students. Thursday, September 9th is the first day of school for kindergarten students. And then we have our bell times, and so Leschi's bell times are going to be continuing with the same bell times that we had pre-COVID. And so 7:55 will be the morning bell. Students may be dropped off as early as 7:35, and breakfast service will start at 7:35 each school day. Dismissal is at 2:25 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. And then Wednesday is early release day, so dismissal is at 1:10 p.m. on Wednesdays. We're going to continue having the school playground and 31st Avenue as the area where students can be dropped off and in the morning and picked up in the afternoons. I'll share more procedures, specific procedures about drop-off and dismissal time with families next week. And for this school year, since we're planning full-time in person, students will have a 20-minute lunch period followed by a 20-minute lunch recess period. And then all classes will have a scheduled morning or afternoon recess, 15-minute recess as well. One quick note here is I'm a strong believer in fresh air and exercise, and knowing that we live in the Pacific Northwest means that please have your student dress for the weather. We will not be holding indoor recess when it rains. We're only going to keep students inside if there's thunder or lightning or if it's pouring rain. So otherwise students need to be prepared for rainy weather during the winter and the fall months. Lunch is going to be a little different. So if you had students who attended school before March 2020, then it's going to look a little different. So something you can let students know is that we'll have students eat lunch in the lunchroom, and we're also going to be using the covered play court area for lunchtime. And this is because public health guidance is that students need to sit at least 6 feet apart when they are not wearing their face masks and when they're eating. So that's the change that's going to be happening this year. We're also going to make sure that classes who are sitting in the covered play court, that rotates, so it's not always the same class that's sitting in the sitting outside for lunch. and so we'll make sure that that's done in a rotation. Now, this year, Seattle Public Schools has already announced that breakfast and lunch will be provided free to all students this year. And so any families that are eligible need to apply for free and reduced lunch. And even though meals are provided for free, we still encourage families to sign up for free and reduced lunch if they're eligible, because there's other services that come with the eligibility, as well as other funding and that comes to the school with those eligibilities. And so more information about that will be sent home to families in the first day packets that your student will bring home on their first day of school. And for those families who've attended Leschi in the past, you know that the first day packet, there's going to be a lot of forms in there. Please take the time to go through the forms that you need to know about and fill out and complete. Some of the forms you'll send back, and some of them you'll keep for your reference. But our Leschi PTA will also have forms, and we'll make sure that there's any information that you'll need, any important information that you'll need will be included in those first aid packets. So moving on to health and safety protocols, it's interesting, and I had hoped that scheduling this community meeting today would mean that I would receive some updates from our district, which principals receive every Wednesday in a principal meeting. However, this afternoon, there was also a press conference by our governor, and so there's some new information, which is that face masks are now will be required for everyone in indoor public spaces in Washington State, and that's going to start Monday, August 23rd. That's regardless of vaccination status. The other news is that the governor has issued a mandate that all public and private school employees in Washington State will have until October 18th to be fully vaccinated. So there is a vaccine mandate for public and private school employees in the state of Washington. And then most families know this, but face masks will be required for all individuals who are in school buildings, and we'll have disposable masks for adults and students available upon entering the building. So Leschi, the ventilation system was upgraded last year, but they installed the MERV 13 filters in the building. Every evening, the ventilation system flushes out the air that's inside the building and then replaces it with fresh air from outside. And another thing to know if you're a new Leschi family is that Leschi is one of the few schools in the district that has air conditioning. And so that also is helpful as far as ventilation. Classrooms and common spaces will be cleaned and disinfected each day. And then when possible, in the classroom and in other spaces in the building, students will be physically distanced by 3 to 6 feet. So the guidance right now from public health is that students are seated at least 3 feet apart in the classroom when possible, and 6 feet apart when masks are off and students are eating. So some of the initial procedures that we know about, so that if a student or staff member or an adult in the building has COVID-19 symptoms, then we already know that students or staff, whoever it is that has symptoms, will be brought to the protected healthcare room. We have a specific classroom space here that is not used by any students or staff during the day at all, and it's not used before or after school, and that is designated as the protected healthcare room. That is a room that every Seattle Public School building needs to have. And then there are specific staff that are designated to monitor the people who have symptoms in that room, and also contact families to come and pick up students or whoever is in there with symptoms as soon as possible. Something new that's going to happen this year is that families will be offered COVID-19 tests here at the school. What we're told is that those tests will be self-administered, and so the options are the students can administer the test themselves while a staff member supervises, or we can have it ready when parents or family members or guardians come to pick up a student. We can offer the test to them, and either parent or family member can administer the test, or the student can administer it under the supervision of their family members. The purpose of this is really to make sure that we give access to the COVID tests to families so that we decrease the amount of time that students are out of school. Right now, the company that we're working with has told us that the turnaround time to get the results is 48 to 72 hours. But they also said that it is possible, and right now the results are coming back within 24 to 48 hours. So it's much quicker. It makes it so that families don't have to make a separate appointment or schedule something outside of school to get the COVID test if their child has any symptoms. Something different this year than last spring is that if there is a positive COVID case in a classroom, then all families with students in the same classroom will be notified. Initially, last spring, it was only anyone who was deemed close contact would be notified, but the district has changed that for this year, that all families in the classroom will be notified if there's a positive case. And then we have a team of nurses at the central office who will be doing contact tracing. If anyone has had any calls from the contact tracing team, and in my experience, the team is excellent, and they work so hard to make sure that they call anyone who had close contact. They make sure that they answer all of the questions that you have if there was close contact, or if there was a positive COVID case in your child's class. We also have, as we're preparing for the start of the school year, student social emotional learning and student well-being. And so all classes will have a social emotional learning block that's going to be scheduled after lunch recess each school day. The purpose of this is to give an opportunity for students and teachers to address any either conflicts or issues that might come in from lunch recess, and be able to handle that in the moment, while also making sure that there's work around repairing relationships in class, as well as having social emotional lessons, using specific social emotional learning curricula, and helping with conflict resolution for students. We are also preparing for lots of resources and services around student wellness, such as our school counselor, other wellness supports, and that means checking in with students, having small social groups with students, just being present and being a resource for students and families on a regular basis as any needs come up. And so if there are any changing needs of your students or your family, please feel free to reach out to me even now before school starts, and be happy to connect you with resources. And then once school starts, our school counselor will be able to help you as far as referrals, doing some check-ins, or even meeting with students as far as any supports that need to be provided. All right, I'll back up a little bit. Question in the chat. So if booster shots become available, will receiving one be part of the requirement to be fully vaccinated for all staff as well? Also, can I speak more about the process for testing? Will testing be required for classes where positive cases have been identified, and will positive results from that testing automatically notify the school? Okay, so the first part of that question, I'm not sure if the third booster, which we've already been hearing some news about, if that'll be part of the requirement of being fully vaccinated. Right now, the district is planning on holding a staff wellness event where they're going to offer both first and second COVID vaccine shots to staff and family members of staff. And they will also be offering the third boosters to anyone who is immunocompromised at this point, or anyone who is eligible. So yeah, I think we're going to get more guidance on that. But I imagine the October 18th deadline is for having the 2 boosters for the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. As far as the testing process, testing the COVID tests, if it's going to be required for classes where positive cases have been identified. I will have to write that question down and figure out the answer to that, and I will let you know. That's something I can report to all families in my next update. I do know that if a family consents to having their child take a COVID test provided by the school, then the results are automatically sent to the school district. So there isn't any other follow-up that families will need to do. So a negative test, the school will be notified, the district will be notified, and a positive test, the school and district will be notified so we can start contact tracing. All right, another comment in the chat. Boosters can't be given until 8 months from a second shot, so most folks won't be able to do that by October 18th. Great, thank you for that clarification. As we receive more information about this, I'll make sure that's shared with families. And you know, this is kind of the breaking news of the day, which is that school employees in Washington State will need to be fully vaccinated by October 18th, and most likely, based on this comment, it's that they will have to have at least have completed 2 of the boosters for the vaccine. So prior to the first day of school, here are some things that you can expect in the next about 2 weeks. So you can expect, definitely, I will share more details about the start of school, especially about arrival and dismissal procedures and other school operations. And I will definitely make sure that any changing health and safety protocols, that families are aware of all of those changes and details and updates that we're receiving. It's kind of new information that we're getting kind of each week, and so I want to make sure that families have that consistent information. The district, of course, as you may have seen, has already started sending out health and safety information as well as other information about the start of school. And I will do my best to make sure that that information is shared with families in a clear and concise way. As you know, sometimes the district messaging can be very lengthy, as the email that we received yesterday evening. You can also expect just regular communication from me regarding other things around the school, any new hires that we're doing, or anything else pertaining to the school and opening. And then you can expect teacher and classroom assignments will be mailed home to you via U.S. mail. So you'll receive a letter saying who your child's teacher is, for this school year, and you'll receive that prior to their first day of school. Now, keep in mind that kindergartners' first day of school is September 9th, and so kindergarten families will receive those letters prior to September 9th, whereas students in grades 1st through 5th grade, those families will receive the letters before September 1st. And then please, you will expect that classroom teachers will be reaching out to families prior to the first day of school, just an introduction message, welcoming your student and your family to the classroom, and just sharing some other details with you. All right, so I apologize for just kind of a dry presentation. There's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of information to process. And although I don't have all of the answers, I will make sure that I find out what the answers are and share that with families and with the community. So this is now an opportunity for anyone to ask any questions that you have, either about the content that I presented on or about other things pertaining to the school and the school year.
I have a question, Steve. Thank you for keeping us so updated. For the classrooms where we have more students, 4th and 5th grades, do we feel confident that we have enough space in one physical classroom to fit kids if we're distancing them at 3 to 6 feet?
Right, yes. So furniture, our facilities department has already come through and all the classrooms and placed furniture at least 3 feet apart for our students. I do need to mention that there are the classroom furniture is also based on what was available here at the school, as well as what was available at the district. And so there are not necessarily just single desks in every classroom. Some classrooms have tables, so larger tables, but students are still seated in kind of the corners of the table. We do also have 2-person desks, so double desks that are basically a longer table. And so the facilities department has come through and already placed all that furniture. And again, it was based on guidance from King County Public Health, while also balancing the reality that we are having all of our students return full-time in person. So that has been the guidance that the district has taken and that the facilities department has already done as far as furniture and space in the classroom. And I believe that they have accommodated all of the student desks and student spaces that will be needed in the classrooms by sometimes removing the larger tables that teachers may have used for other activities, like small group connections or small group instruction or things like that. So there's definitely more updates to come about how small group learning will happen this year, as well as other things that we know that teachers and students use to learn in the classroom, such as learning from their peers, partner reading, partner sharing, things like that. I'll share more updates. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
All right, a question from the chat. Are all sick kids sent to the same room to wait for pickup? This seems like it might be an issue for people who end up there who don't have COVID. Also, the daily attestations seem good. What was the rationale for canceling this? Yes. So thanks for that question. So we do have the protected health room space is a full-size classroom. We have some partitions in there as well. And so anyone with symptoms is sent to the same room to wait for pickup. We do have some other flexible spaces that we could use depending on the timing of this. And so some other options could be other spaces that aren't being used at that time. But again, we want to make sure that anyone with symptoms does not come into contact with others who do not have symptoms. yes, I definitely see the concern of having everyone in there, especially if someone does have COVID and then others do not, but they have other symptoms related to either the cold or the flu. So I can see what other guidance or what other mitigations we can do um, to put in place. I do know that the school just received a very large shipment of um, portable HEPA air filtration systems, like the little filter, fans, to be used in spaces um, so that if there are students, that there's continual filtered airflow that's happening. So for the daily attestations, the rationale that I was told for canceling it was that um, first of all, it created a lot of um, time spent on checking in students, and that when we have all of our students full time, that means that arrival procedures could potentially take a long time to get all students in the building. Another rationale for canceling it was because school staff, we had to monitor students for symptoms anyway, that even if the attestation was completed, we still needed to monitor students for symptoms. And so that's something that we'll continue to do, and we'll continue to see what other guidance comes out from public health, whether it be temperature checks or anything like that. But yeah, it was canceled in accordance with public health guidance. Okay, next question in the chat. Will parents be allowed in the building to volunteer? And will there be an official way to show vaccination status? Yes, so parents will be allowed to come into the building to volunteer. And the requirement will be that any school volunteer will need to be fully vaccinated. As far as the official way to show that vaccination status, I have to find out what that is. On the Seattle Schools website, seattleschools.org, there is the online application for volunteers, as well as a background check that's completed. And so parents or community members who wish to volunteer, they can start filling that out now. And I believe that one way to show vaccination status is during that application process to upload a copy of your vaccination card. But I'll have to find out more about that, and I'll make sure that families know about how to show that vaccination status. Because what I'm told is that it's not like I or another staff member will be standing by the door asking volunteers to show their vaccination card when they come in. That'll all be done prior to the volunteer opportunities getting set up. Next question. The launch after school program is full, but it sounds like they might open availability. Do I have any additional information on this, or other after school programs, or are there non-SPS related programs? So I know that launch is hoping to hire more staff, and that will increase the capacity that launch has for students and families here at Leschi. And it sounds like they have a wait list right now. I've heard there's about 29 or 30 students that are currently enrolled at launch, and that there's about another 29 or 30 students on the wait list, and a few more staff hirings. If they can hire a few more staff, then they'll be able to have all the students on the wait list be enrolled in their after-school program. That's the information that I've heard. I know that, and perhaps I'll share with our PTA to share some of the recruiting information that Launch has sent us, to see if there's anyone who's interested in, or anyone knows anyone else who might be interested in applying to work at Launch after school program. And then there's other after-school programs. There's other after-school childcare that's non-SPS related. And so I'll make sure that families are sent at least a link to a list of those programs. I'm also working right now with the Boys and Girls Club, Rotary Boys and Girls Club on 19th and Spruce, to see if they can open up capacity and to see if they can make sure that they arrange transportation from Leschi to their facility at 19th and Spruce. So I'll definitely make sure that that information is shared with families, and I compile a list of childcare and after-school programs. Any updates on the classroom addition? Will construction workers be inside of the school at all during the school day? If they are inside, will they be required to wear masks or be vaccinated? So yeah, the classroom addition construction project is going according to schedule. We do have workers that are inside the building that have been in this week, working on some of the wiring and some of the other systems. And what I am told is that construction workers will not be inside the school during the school day. They're going to keep their work outside of the school during the school day, and then they're also going to make sure that the work they're doing is during the school day is primarily the quieter work. So any work they need to do that's louder or might create a lot of dust, they're going to reserve for those times when students, when it's not the student day. And then there are some other plans that, yes, so when construction workers are inside the school building, even during the summer, but if there would be a reason for them to come in the building during the school day, then they will be required to wear masks, physically distance away, and they won't be near any classes or students, but because it's primarily on the north end of the building. As far as being vaccinated, I am not sure. I know that the governor's mandate today does apply not just to school staff, but to coaches and other people who work in a school, but I'm not sure if that applies to construction workers. But I can find out. And then next question, what is the return to school procedure if kids have symptoms on weekends or breaks and can't be tested at school? Yeah, so the return to school procedures, if any student has a symptom, what I know, first of all, is that this year is going to be, an adjustment for everyone. It's going to be unique in a way in that, and the district has already told principals that the attendance policy is going to be relaxed a bit because of the fact that if students have symptoms, they're going to be sent home. And so, one thing is just all of the free COVID testing sites around the city. There's resources that we can share about that. But as far as the specific return to school procedures, I'll have to get more information and make sure that families have that information about what to do if these scenarios happen, so that everyone's aware. Oh yeah, so Benson Wilder is on this call, and Benson, I don't know if you want to say anything, but Benson just put in the chat just a hello and welcome to all new families. And there is a school community listserv, so that's different from the all-family email list or the messages you receive from the school. So if you have any PTA questions, you can email Benson. His email is in the chat. You can also be added to the school and community listserv. And again, there'll be information about that coming home in the first day packets that you'll be able to read through. All right, other questions? All right, question in the chat. So how can can I say how technology will be used in or out of the class? So yes, since we're going to be assigning a device to every Seattle Public School student, so every student at Leschi will get a device. As far as used in the class, that's going to vary based on grade level. So I do know that kindergarten, first grade, there won't be as much device usage in class. There'll be a lot more of those activities that are planned, that are hands-on for our younger students. For older students, especially third, fourth, and fifth grade, there definitely is technology that's used in the class, whether it be for creating presentations, word processing, to write essays, other things, doing research, for projects, or for other assignments that teachers have. And so the older students will definitely use the technology a little more, but it won't be it definitely won't be near the amount of screen time your students had during virtual learning last year. We're going to be making sure that there's lots of opportunities for students to read physical books, to be engaging with each other, and talking with other students and other staff members in person. And so a lot of the technology devices, there's kind of two big reasons. One is to make sure that students have a device at home. That could be to either complete assignments or have reading materials loaded on their device with apps, for kind of just right reading material that they can have at home. Another reason is for the contingency that we would need to go to either hybrid or virtual learning. Now, again, we're not planning any of the hybrid or virtual learning models at this time. We're only planning for full-time in person. But the district, based on the last few school years, the district has definitely learned that having a device already assigned and checked out to each student just gives schools that flexibility in the event that that needs to happen. Especially with the example of if there would be a need for an entire class to quarantine, then the students would already have those devices ready, and the students could continue learning. So yeah, as far as in class and here at school, your student won't be having lots and lots of screen time. Out of class and at home, it's definitely family discretion as far as how much screen time to use that for, but definitely for the older students, they'll have assignments that they can complete on their devices. All right, next question. Will parents be allowed to go into the classrooms? So Seattle Public Schools will have, the policy for this year is they're allowing visitors by appointment only. And so just if you arrange to have a meeting with your child's teacher, if you arrange to have a meeting with someone else, even if you were to stop by the office and ask for a meeting, we can be flexible and see what are ways in which we can definitely make sure that your questions and concerns are addressed, and that any sort of information that you need is delivered to you. And so it's going to be by appointment only. Any visitors to the building will be required to wear masks. But we do not, we're already told that visitors will not have a vaccine requirement. They just have to have an appointment. But again, we're going to have masks on. We're going to be physically distancing from each other. So will kindergarten students have regular homework? So the kindergarten teachers will be scheduling conferences with all the kindergarten families, and will every grade level will actually be holding a curriculum night or an open house to talk more about the curriculum and the homework policy. So with kindergarten and with all the grade levels, there will be age-appropriate developmental activities and homework to practice the skills that they've been learning. the specific requirements as far as homework is going to be up to the grade levels. And of course, we want to make sure that families, that students have that ability to practice their skills, but we also want to make sure that families aren't just having battles with their student at night, that families can really enjoy quality family time in the evenings. And so if there are any issues that come up with homework, please communicate with your child's teacher, whether it be, there were battles or they weren't able to get it done, or any other questions you might have about homework. But I do know that kindergarten students will have some activities that they'll do in the evenings. Okay, any other questions? Well, it's 7:49. I'm going to stay on this call until 8 o'clock. I'll stay in the meeting here. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I'll make sure that information is shared with you in a very clear and concise manner, but also in a very timely manner, so that you and your family, and especially your student, is prepared and has lots of things that they know and expect about the school year. We're really excited to have students back in school full time, and are just eager to partner with all of you this year. So thank you. Yes, Benson.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say a quick hello since we have a minute. Welcome to all of our new families, and welcome back to everyone who we know already. And thanks, Mr. Liu, for doing this for us. I'll be sending out more information on PTA upcoming meetings, and also we still have opening. I'm the current PTA president, but we're looking for replacements for myself as well as other open positions on the board. But I just wanted to say that there are plenty of ways to be involved in the school community, even if you don't want to be active in the PTA or on the board. And we just try to function as a connector between the broader family body and the administration and the teachers. Most key information I will try to send out through Mr. Liu's weekly updates, since those go to all families. But the listserv that I mentioned earlier is meant for discussion, or if people have random questions or other updates that are maybe slightly more peripheral but still relevant to school. And you'll kind of get a sense if you're on the listserv. Other than that, drop me a line if you have any questions, and I can connect you with other parents and other members of the PTA board, and stand by for more info coming from us.
Great. Thank you, Benson. All right. So again, thank you again for attending. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Please feel free to reach out anytime you have any questions. Yeah, and I look forward to the school year.